Ever wonder what happened to Amaru after Savathun gave him over to the Vanguard? If you played this year's spooky event, you'll find out he has assisted our guardian in some lost sectors, but it gets way crazier. In the Tales of the Forgotten Volume 3 Lorebook, we learn about Immaru's escape. He goes undercover during Festival of the Lost to control the flow of candy. He makes a master plan with Archie and Spider, even constructing his own Headless One to rampage through the tower. Welcome, Guardians, let's dive right in. Throughout this new lore book, there's sort of one main storyline with Amaru and his candy adventures, but others do exist. Today we're going to focus on the main plot for this year's event, but tomorrow I'm going to release a video with all 33 plus entries, a 40-minute video reading them all in sort of an audiobook type format if you'd like to go more in depth. Some other stories include Ido writing spooky stories, Zavala gifting Neek and her sister Amanda's tools, Colonel attacking Guardians, and much more. Let's get to Amaru's adventure though. It all begins with Amaru, who is locked in a room protected by a member of the Hidden after he's tried to sneak out multiple times. This time, he's gonna do it again and he's got a plan. A sweeper bot enters his room and he commands it to bring him a bag from the other side near the wall. Inside, he finds a new shell which he changes into and slips out into the festival. "I still can't believe Savathun would do this to me," Amaru said to the bot as he flew directly into its face. "The nerve of it all, leaving me here as collateral, and then to ask for information? He watched the bot shuffle away and broom the open crate. Then again, who says I have to share everything? Amaru swooped around, quickly hacking into the sweeper bot's systems. "Grab an empty kit bag from over there. Should be just the right size if I remove a little weight." As the bot complied, Amaru chuckled, shedding his standard hive shell. "Right, time for a jailbreak." Amaru begins to notice the oddities of the festival. Guardians are going crazy over candy. He watched Guardians meditate among candles, the flames flickering in the breeze. Others, dressed as insects and arachnids, gleefully danced or bobbed for apples, their revelry flanked by a pair of Guardians galloping by with coconut shells. Amid the flurry of costumes and masks, his gaze finally settled on people sharing small wrapped objects. Immaru gingerly floated closer to the base of the tree to get a better look. After meeting with Glint and Ido because he thought he would get some entertainment out of the Guardians, Amaru heads back to the tower courtyard. In the courtyard, Anna and Archie are going for a walk when they run into Eva Levante, who gives Archie a little hunter cloak of his own. Meanwhile, Colonel the chicken attacks Amaru and Archie saves him. A chicken charged the Titan. He gasped and quickly dropped his bounty of candy in front of the ironwood tree, hands outstretched in a semblance of surrender. The chicken feverishly flapped her wings and mercilessly pecked his fingers. "Colonel, it's me! It's me!" the Titan cried out in agony, trying to yank his mask loose. "I'm not a chicken!" Mask wedged askew, the Titan ran and frantically barreled straight through Amaru. The ghost slammed into Colonel with a solid thud. The chicken focused her rage on Amaru and snapped at his yell. She found purchase on the silver snake decoration and clamped down. "Let go!" Amaru yelled, wishing he had his hive shell to swat the bird away. He sped through the courtyard tower toward the hangar, but Colonel had the strength of a Titan, the finesse of a hunter, the cunning of a warlock, and held on the whole way. Anna gasped softly with delight as she unfurled a tiny cloak. "Look at you, Archie. I always knew you were a hunter at heart." She bent to secure the cloak just as a ghost came zipping in the direction of the hangar, a rage-filled chicken hanging off his shell. Archie's cloak flapped over the ghost's eye. Unable to see, the ghost skipped and skidded along the floor of the courtyard, landing in the abandoned pile of candy beneath the ironwood tree. Colonel's beak shook loose on impact. She expertly bobbed and weaved around the candy, her pecking focused on the ghost's eye. Mechanical barks sounded, and among the candy wrappers, Amaru saw a flurry of feathers fly past. Eventually, the squawking faded into the distance. Amaru sat motionless until he felt the dog's nose nuzzle softly against him. Only then did the flustered ghost emerge from hiding. Aw, look at that. Archie saved that little ghost from Colonel's wrath. What a good little hunter, a guardian cooed. Immaru watched in awe as every guardian in the courtyard simultaneously forgot about the candy, their attention devoted exclusively to the dog. Incredible, he mused with fascination. Later on, Amaru finds Archie and wants his help controlling Candy, the candy that guardians go crazy over. Amaru eventually found Archie again, sleeping and curled in a blanket in the annex. The ghost approximated the glottal sound of cleaning one's throat, and the dog opened one eye. You know, after the whole chicken thing, I saw what you did there, to those guardians in the courtyard. The way you had them wrapped around your little, paws. You've got a gift, Amaru said, and I can really use your help. Archie tilted his head, listening. Right now, those guardians don't care about anything else besides candy. It's controlling them, and they'll do anything for it, so we gotta get control of it instead. Archie growled. Not to hurt the guardians, Amaru said, feigned sincerity dripping in his voice. Just to help them. You wanna help Anna, don't you? Keep her safe? Archie processed for a moment and then barked in agreement, sealing their pact. Archie and Amaru were successful. It was easy to find and steal candy. The only issue was what to do with it after. They needed some place to store it. So naturally, where did they look? The bustling bars of the ether tank, a perfect fit for Amaru and the spider to meet. The bar of the ether tank was packed with the city's patrons, Elixni or otherwise. The forlorn drinkers, the karaoke enthusiasts, the social gamblers. Spider casually listened to the fervor as he scrolled through the figures on his datapad, calculating his fortunes. Neon light reflected along the silver snake design of a constricting shell disguise that Amaru wore. Archie trotted beside him as he approached. I have a proposition for you, Amaru said, but Spider simply continued to read. If I have to repeat myself, I'll do it and you'll be in my collection, Spider replied and turned suddenly to face him, an empty ghost shell held tight in his claws. You have no idea who you're messing with, Amaru sneered. Spider bent down to look directly at the ghost, eyes to eye. Oh, I absolutely do. Now get out. Candy is the driving currency around here right now, for everything, Amaru said quickly. I got the means to extract it, adjust the economics for the city, if you will. But I need someone with access to storage, lots of it. Spider paused for a moment. What's the cut? 15%. I also need tech for Archie here to quickly transmat the goods over long distances to a big facility, Amaru promised sweetly. 50%, Spider responded. 50% for storage? The tech, the storage, and everything that goes with it. You're out of your mind. 15. 60%, take it or leave it. Amaru narrowed his iris. 50. 60. Spider said again, and then turned to Archie. And what about you? You agree with this? Archie barked excitedly, and Spider steepled his fingers. Looks like we have a deal. Things got off to a rocky start. Spider says some of his candy supply is missing, but Amaru assures him he's not messing with them. It should all be there in that warehouse. Amaru looks to Archie and says, listen, we gotta go bigger. Even this spider operation isn't enough. So he turns to the Drifter. Among the halls of the derelict, Amaru meets Drifter's ghost with its red eye while searching for information on the Headless Ones. Hey, Amaru called out. The walls inside the derelict creaked and groaned in response, shuddering as if the cobbled walls would suddenly rip apart. He was alone. Amaru wandered through the ship until he stumbled on shelves of containment glass that lined the walls. A jar held eyeballs that roiled slowly in viscous liquid, their stare following Amaru. There were hundreds of odd samples and organisms. Some could still be alive, but he wasn't willing to find out. Up ahead, he heard an impossibly low utterance. The infrasonic vibrations melded into a droning moan and swelled into something indescribable. The sound traveled toward him, closer and closer. And then, it stopped. Everything stopped. Amaru turned, face to face with the blood-red eye of another ghost. "Get back!" Amaru shrieked. The red-eyed ghost complied. Its eye seemed to bug outward from the grotesque and malformed patchwork shell that twisted and hunched to one side. The ghost hung lopsided in the air, as if it was dragging the weight of the world. Is Drifter here? The ghost's iris rapidly flickered from red to blue in a hypnotic pattern. Guess I'll take that as a no. You, got a name there, pal? The other ghost's eye immediately went solid red, its gaze still steady on Amaru. Right, Drifter. Drifter has some goods on the Headless Ones. Mind if I borrow them? Anything you got. The other ghost floated over to a container marked Cabal Brains and stroked the lid lovingly with its shell. No, Amaru yelped. No, I don't need those brains. No, don't need those either. No, you can keep the eyes too. The silent ghost bobbed around Amaru and slid its flap down his shell. It pulled him close until it grazed Amaru's iris. You're busy. I'll come back. Never. Amaru whispered as he hurriedly released himself and transmatted away. The plan was to make their own Headless One to get the candy for them. The first attempt in Card 23 goes terribly wrong. They construct a Headless One from different enemy parts, like an arm of an ogre, another arm of a thrall, and fragments of pumpkin. As he siphoned ether into its creation, it rose. The monster pulled itself up and began to attack its maker. As it grabbed Amaru and stumbled across the floor, the monster's pumpkin head cracked at the seam, exploding and splattering pumpkin goo across the room. A bit later, they try again with different parts. Amaru and Archie nervously stared at their second assembled prototype on the table. The tech knitted through these salvaged organic components had been upgraded. A Cabal sword replaced its right hand. Splicer wiring wove through its left arm. Vex milk coursed through its veins. The rest had been completely pieced together from carefully procured Headless One parts, reassembled into a patchwork of organic horror. It oozed a dark, gelatinous liquid from its seams and smelled of death. Next to the body was the final piece, a perfectly intact pumpkin head. Archie sniffed and pawed at the dormant head, and the pumpkin rocked from side to side. Careful, Amaru snapped. Those things don't sever easily without exploding, he shuddered. One favor to Drifter is enough. Amaru attached the head to the body, a perfect, mutilated fit. He opened the chest cavity, the flesh stretching and tearing as he inserted a discolored hive crystal inside. Energy surged through the headless monster, and a haunting red light flickered inside its head. It howled and snarled as it sat up. Aha! It's perfect! Perfect! Immaru mused with glee. You want candy, huh? You crave it. Need it, Amaru said to the monster. It ambled forward and swiped its good arm at him in response. Then go out there and get it. All of it, Amaru said. The monster found its footing and began to hurry toward the door. Archie growled and raced after it as Amaru giggled with delight. Now the real fun begins. The Headless One quickly made its way to the bazaar. Vendors scattered. People grabbed hatchlings and children, running in every which direction. Glint and Ida watched in horror as the Headless One lashed out and shoved a rotisserie over, quickly catching nearby booths on fire. It ripped apart a display of candy, devouring every last piece in sight, and when it was gone, the monster continued its rampage. It tore through lanterns, pulling them apart as if searching for something. It smashed fruit from one booth, threw vegetables from another. Frustrated, it began to claw at the drawings of candy on the ground. A fistful of decoration in its good hand as it shrieked with a blood-curdling scream. As the Headless One rampaged through the tower, Ido, Glint, and Archie, who realized this was a bad idea, came up with a plan to take out the Headless One. Ido raced to a nearby vendor table of Elixir-baked goods and swiped the biggest loaf she could find. Her 4 hands worked furiously, tearing off chunks of bread and wrapping them in candy wrappers, and she suddenly realized she was very glad to be Elixni. "Ido!" Glint yelled. She looked up and saw the Headless One barreling toward them and the assorted pile of candy at her feet. They scrambled out of the way just as the Headless One descended on the colorful wrappers. It devoured everything without a second glance. But nothing happened. "I don't understand," Glint said. "That should have worked." "Perhaps there's a chamber inside, something to hold the Vex milk as it distributes around the body?" Ido asked. "We're going to find out," Glint said. He zipped toward the Headless One, scanning it as it swiped furiously at him. "The chest," he called out just as the monster batted him away. Glint spun through the air, dizzy but unharmed. Archie barked and immediately rushed to action, enticing the Headless One to chase him. The dog led it toward the kettle corn stand, weaving quickly through its legs. The monster stumbled, and Archie leapt forward, giving it a solid shove. The monster caught the massive cast iron kettle, pulling it down as it fell to the ground. The kettle landed on its chest and with a solid crunch, pouring popcorn and hot liquid sugar into the Headless One's body. The monster howled in pain and pried itself free. It swayed as it stood, Vex milk bubbling from its chest wound. Crow, Zavala, and Anna rushed forward with Glint beside them, and Ido pushed them away. "Get back!" she yelled and took cover. The Headless One screamed again, its body expanding, the edges of the pumpkin head splitting and cracking. Suddenly, the monster exploded, erupting in a rainbow of foam that rose thick and high into the sky before cascading into a sticky sea coating the entire bazaar. The remains of the festival stands laid in a heap, everything and everyone covered in a layer of rancid, foamy pumpkin ooze. Immaru drifted by, almost dancing through the air as he surveyed the destruction. "Did you see that? It was like a giant foamy screeb," he laughed. "Better than anything I could have imagined." "You did this?" Crow exclaimed, and Amaru tipped his hive shell toward him in response. "I just set the events in motion. Your little friends there finished the job." "This sticky substance, it's amazing by the way. No notes. Definitely worth the look on your faces right now." He cackled and floated away. "Happy Festival of the Lost, meatbags." So there you have it, Guardians, the tale of this year's event with Amaru. Again, these were just some of the cards and the main story. Others include Zavala gifting Amanda's tools, Crow's thoughts, Ido sharing her scary stories with Mithrax, and much more. The full video with all 33 entries will release tomorrow. Anyway, Guardians, if you enjoyed this video and would like to see some more just like it, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. I thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.